today we are going to be talking about money. One of the things we should probably be talking about the most, but we actually talk about the least. And specifically today, we are going to be talking about day rates. I'm going to talk to you about what I charge as an architect, what I charge as an artist, why those numbers are quite different, and what you need to take into consideration when thinking about your day rate. I'm also going to talk about when day rates do and don't work and kind of how you should think about them. So let's get into it, shall we? Last year I read a book by Atega Awagba called We Need to Talk About Money, and I thought it was absolutely brilliant. I highly recommend it. It's a brilliant read, and in it she talks all about the importance of us having conversations about money, which I completely agree with. Rich people talk to other rich people about money all the time. If we're not talking about money, we're not helping ourselves out. Financial literacy is key to running a creative business, and it's something that we are not taught in art or design school. What I have realised over the years is that making art and making money are two completely separate things, and doing one doesn't necessarily mean you're good at doing the other, and you absolutely need both to thrive as a creative business. Making great art on its own simply isn't enough. And sadly, you're going to have a tough time thriving as a creative if you can't wrap your head around making money. Okay, so today we are specifically going to talk about day rates. Day rates, or an hourly charge, is a fee that's directly connected to your time. And there are sort of pros and cons to calculating fee in this way. The problem with day rates is that it kind of implies that the longer that you work on something, the more valuable it is. And that's not always the case. Now, that is true in some circumstances, but not every single time. Just because you have the ability to create something quickly, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's low in value. For example, it could have taken you years of experience to be able to learn how to do that thing so quickly. Or perhaps your work is in high demand, so there's multiple people that actually want your time. And crucially, if you're an artist, it usually matters who's actually providing the service. For example, if you are hiring an Uber, all you care about is getting from A to B. That is the service that you want, and you don't really care who delivers that service to you. But with art, it's usually different. There is value to who is actually making the artwork itself. Okay, I'm going to discuss with you what my day rate is as an architect when working for an architect practice versus an artist, and discuss why these numbers are dramatically different to kind of explain the process of how you calculate a day rate. Last year was the last time I freelanced as an architect for a practice, and I was charging them £250 a day. Now I am an artist, I charge clients £500 a day. Does that mean I'm earning double the amount as an artist as I was as an architect? Absolutely not. Let me explain to you why. You need to think about three things when you're calculating your day rate. Number one, industry standards. Number two, overheads. And number three, billable hours. So let's discuss this for when I was an architect. When I started freelancing as an architect, before I negotiated my day rate, the first thing I did is I went to my peers in my industry who are at the same level, and I spoke to them about what they were getting paid. It is extremely important for you to understand what the going rate is for your work. And if you are a woman, it is even more important. Go and find out what men are charging. To be honest, this goes for people who are salaried too. The problem is when it comes to negotiating wages is that the balance of power is asymmetric. The people who are at the top have all the information and you have none of it. Knowledge is power, and when you are entering into negotiations, you need to be armed with information. Now, I completely understand that talking about money is super awkward. So the way that I do it is I lead with transparency and I kind of hope that I get it in return, which is usually what actually happens. So when I was calculating my rate, I just reached out to a few people, even some of them I hadn't spoken to in quite a long time. And I just said, hey, I know you're freelancing at the moment. Do you mind if I just run past you what I would like to charge? Just so I could get an idea of what you think about my rates. So I didn't explicitly ask them what they are charging. So I said, you know, I want to charge £240 an hour. How do you think about that? And nearly all of them got back to me with actual numbers. They said, oh yeah, sounds good, I'm on 210, go for it. Someone else said, sounds a bit low to me, I'm on 280. And it meant that I could like position myself and think about what exactly I wanted. So the second thing that I had to review was overheads. Now, when I worked for an architect practice, I literally had £0 worth of overheads. They provided everything for me. They provided me a computer, it had all the programs on. I even walked to work. It literally cost me nothing to work for them. So I didn't have to factor that into my day rate. The third thing I had to consider was billable hours. When I worked for architecture practice, I had 100% billable hours. As soon as I walked in there, they were paying for my time to the moment that I walked out. There was nothing that I had to do additionally to make sure that I got paid. 100% of that time was billable. So at the end of the day, when I got paid £250, I went home with £250. That is what entered my bank account. 0 deductions. So that's what I was charging the practice. The practice was probably charging the client, my guess is somewhere between £600 and £700 a day for my time, because that money needs to cover all my costs, how much they need to pay me, it needs to cover all their overheads, and it needs to cover the profit. And that's why those two numbers are quite different. So when it comes to me charging as an artist, I am similar to the architect practice rather than sole architect working on their own. So let's talk about the difference then between that and how I calculate my artist day rate. So industry standards when it comes to artists are much more varied. It's kind of hard, like with an architect, it was easy for me to just go to other project architects and specifically find out what they were charging. Industry standards for artists are so wide varying because, you know, you can be a hobbyist who really isn't trying to make a living from this, all the way to sort of like rock star artists that are just getting paid millions. The lowest rate that I have seen is like £120 a day, and the highest rate I've seen floating around in the art world is £700 a day, and I charge £500 a day. You need to take an honest judgment of where you think you fall within that spectrum to make sure that you can charge accordingly. If you set your day rate too high, clients will go elsewhere. If you set it too low, you'll get taken advantage of. Okay, there are 250 work days in a year. If you times that by 500, that means I'm earning £125,000 a year. I wish. So let's talk about overheads as an artist. Am I going to be able to even list them all? I've written down a list. My studio, materials, tools, computer, hard drives, cameras, printers, ink, art supplies. That was just the things I could see around me. Shall we move on to subscriptions? Adobe, SketchUp, AutoCAD, Epidemic Sound, Free Agent, Squarespace, GoDaddy for my domain name, my banking business account, subcontractors. So the work that I do is usually large scale, so it's quite rare that I work alone. So we have like assistants, producers, PR, photographers, videographers, accountants, insurance. This is always a fun one, seems to go up with every contract. Professional indemnity, employer liability, public liability, training. I need to train myself. So I have a Skillshare account. Last week I got trained on how to use a boom lift and a scissor lift, which I had to pay for. Oh, and then of course there's tax, because unlike Amazon, Muggins here actually pays it. So let's say for argument's sake, that adds up to whatever, 25 grand a year, let's say. So you'd be like, well, Hannah, minus that, then you've still got 100 grand. What are you complaining about? Happy days. No. We move on to the third thing, billable hours. So as I explained when I was in architecture practice, 100% of my time was billable, but as an artist, that's not quite the case, because in the architect practice, I was the worker bee, but here I am the worker bee, or the artist, plus all the other things. I'm the director, which means I'm out, I'm networking, I'm meeting clients, I'm doing everything I can to raise my profile. I am the head of R&D, which means, I do all the research. Do I want to try something new? Do I want to do a YouTube channel to see if that's something that could support my studio? Well, it's me who has to do it, and it's not getting paid. It's an investment into my studio that takes time. I'm also the studio manager. Has the internet gone out? My problem, I gotta fix it. I am the studio cleanup for when I do things like this. I am the bid coordinator. This is probably one of the ones that takes the most amount of time, pulling together bids. They mostly go unpaid, and these are not billable hours. I'm the head of HR. If I'm running a team and anything goes wrong with anyone that I employ, they come to me to sort it out. I deal with interviewing, hiring, firing, pay slips, etc. Moving on nicely from that, I'm the head of finance. Expenses are all gonna be sorted out by me. I'm my own social media manager.
Just make a quick reel, this won't take me long.
4 hours later, I am the admin assistant. Oh, the emails. So even if you hire someone to help you out with any of these things, that needs to be covered, plus your time to manage the people who are managing the other things. And the list goes on and on. So be honest with yourself. How much of your time are actual billable hours? 50%? 20%? Kind of depends. Mine changes wildly week to week. There'll be one week where I'll just be slammed with client work. There'll be other weeks where it'll be really quiet and I'll busy myself with other stuff. If you have your day rates calculated, it's actually not usually how it works out in the contract. And this is what I mean by using it as a tool. If I had someone approach me with a brief that was £10,000, I think, okay, how much do I need to spend on materials? Say I need to spend £1,000 on materials and I need to spend £2,000 on assistants. If I have £7,000, then I should spend no more than 14 days on that project. But the thing is, that's not what it says in the contract. In the contract, it says you need to deliver X, Y, and Z, regardless of how many days it takes, which is why you need to be specific in your contract. Get those details in there. Make sure you add your day rate, so if the scope changes, then you can charge for your extra billable time. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, please do give it a like and subscribe to my channel. Leave me a comment if there's anything else you'd like me to talk about. And if you are interested to see what I'm charging £500 a day for, then you can come and follow me on Instagram and check out my artwork there. Until next time, see you later.